I don't know if this is our famous quick aside, but just to put a bow on the conversation you and I were having in the handoff thingy.
It's a crossover.
Like, I'm not even saying that Brandon Aiyuk's not as good as or better than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, sometimes the whole who's better than who, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, who's better? I always like to change the wording around it because it's like, well, that's just your cup of tea. Like, they're both very, very good players. But Amon-Ra's way more accomplished. Never in the history of the NFL has there been a defensive game plan room when they're getting ready for the 49ers and everybody sits down with clipboards and videos and says, okay, how on God's green earth do we stop Brandon Aiyuk this week? If we stop Brandon, we beat the Niners, period. No, that's not how it sounds.
Yes,
that's how it sounds when Amon-Ra St. Brown and the Lions come to town.
I think that you are conflating or mixing up what I was saying and what I think is the real root of this conversation.
I wasn't responding to anything you said. That was the starting point.
For me, it's not about who is actually better because I think it's clear that Amon-Ra St. Brown is better. It's about who Brandon Aiyuk thinks is better. And if he thinks that he is as good as, if not better than, a player who's making $30 million, then he's going to look at it and think, I deserve more than $30 million. And that, to me, is where this lies. Because if you asked any 100 football experts were asked, who's a better wide receiver, you probably would get an 80 to 85% Amon-Ra. There'd be some that would think, the blocking and the route running, and if he was in a better offense, whatever. You can make an argument. I'm with you on who is better. But for me, the root of all this is, what does Brandon think? And it's clear to me that he thinks that he's better than the 49ers think that he is.
Well,
or maybe better is not the word, important.
I don't even know. Yeah, like I hear what you're saying. I wonder, again, I've thought all along timing is actually the biggest enemy here.
You're right there.
It's not even about what Brandon thinks and what the Niners think. It's about what fits right now. And the whole you can't pay everybody thing, which is true. Richard Sherman just said that on his show earlier today. He was like, look, this is one of those situations where if you really dive into it, you can understand both sides pretty well. And I was there until Brandon, if it's true, reportedly turned down somebody offering him the money he's asking for. That's where you lose me. So I hear what you're saying. Is it about what Brandon thinks of himself? That's an aspect of this. I'm a little bit more interested, though, in what the 49ers think. Because as I will continue to say, even though I know everyone has thrown all kinds of different reasons why they think Brandon's got this leverage and that leverage, at the end of all of this, when you boil it to its bottom, the Niners have the pen. They've got the phone. Whatever they say goes.
Sure.
So they've got the power. And it's what they think that matters.
But it's not absolute power because he has the power to do things that can make life uncomfortable for them. And he already looks like it already has happened that way.
Yeah, I mean, he has the power to not play.
He has the power to be a toxic presence in the locker room. He has the power to help turn other people against him. He has a lot of power in things that he can do while he's holding in.
I would argue the 49ers could handle that.
Sure.
The 49ers have handled worse.
Yes, but I'm not saying that it's equal to the power of the pen. And the pen has already been put away because he signed a contract and he's under contract. So that's a given. Okay, go play your fifth-year option. And if he decides to go do that, as TJ Houshmandzadeh had said to us maybe back in April, he's going to go play.
Right.
Because I said, hey, what if he has to play on his fifth-year option? And I was doing one of my long-winded questions and trying to stretch out. And he's like, it cut me off. Oh, he's going to go play. He's going to play. And that's the reality of it. Back then.
You said you're upset.
Right.
But you
Where's my helmet? And you play football.
Put your pants on and you go play.
That felt like a no-brainer then. Now that feels a little bit more like a sticky proposition because he hasn't shown the desire to go out there and just play. By all expectation, he's healthy right now, but he's just not wanting to practice. And if he's not going to practice till he gets his money, and as TJ said, he just wants to get paid. Well, if he doesn't get paid, then something's got to give. Because if you're not going to practice until you get paid, and you don't get paid, then you're not going to practice. And if you don't practice, you don't play. And if you don't play, you don't set yourself up for a long-term deal in the offseason. So if it all goes down this way, no trade, no extension, fifth-year option, you got to play, then Brandon's got a tough choice to make.
Yeah.
He can continue to make life difficult, assuming that he is now, and give up, like you said, the really big bag in the offseason, or he just puts his head down, goes out and has 75 catches, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, and then he can double bird his way out of here if he wants.
Yeah. I mean, if the 49ers, I agree with that entire assessment. If the 49ers, if they do something now, it's because they're cutting their losses, which, kind of paints a picture that maybe I don't think it's that obvious to see right now. How awful is he making life? You know what I mean?
Super question.
What is so
a great question?
What's so bad that you want to send him out of town when he's clearly the best man for the job, and you don't have a replacement in place? Like, that's for me, if you're not getting some other new receiver who you think is really going to be a great fit, if you're not doing that in a deal, why would you do any deal?
And that's a great question.
Thank you.
Make him sit.
Yeah.
Because he won't. TJ is still right at his core. Brandon is not going to sit. He could sort of make it so Kyle will make him sit. But again, what's
the long-term benefit of that?
Right. That I go back to the question that for me ran June in my mind. Who wins? What is the win? I'm still having a hard time seeing it. Even if you get dealt to Pittsburgh 4 weeks before there's a game, I got a hard time. Who wins here?
Well, he would win if he gets whatever money. He gets the money.
He gets the money, but okay, but the Niners will be worse. Your stats will be worse. I think it is kind of funny, the idea of, because a lot of people have said this to me, and he said it. He mentioned it on Ryan Clark's podcast. TJ said
former
to us,
Steeler.
Well, remember when TJ, you asked him about targets, and TJ was like, man, you can be one of these receivers that gets 15 targets and you want 18.
Yep.
Everybody wants the ball more. All right, great. Everyone wants the ball more. So Pittsburgh? You mean black and blue, cloud of dusk, Mike Tomlin, defensive head coach? Pittsburgh? You're not going to go there and get 18 targets?
Not 18, but they throw it more than the Niners do. And everybody throws it more than the Niners do.
I mean, again,
just raw pass attempts.
Yes,
that's
and that was shaded, in my opinion, a little bit last year by how many leads they had late into games. They're fully capable of throwing the ball, and in fact, much, much better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers have a physical beast of a receiver who could not get going until they went to their third quarterback last year, and he's a guy who's been sitting there on their bench for 4 years. Now, I know that Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are there this year, but I wouldn't act like those two set the world on fire last year. And Pickens is still there and is still angry after most offensive series. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Pittsburgh threw the ball 15 more times last year than the Niners.
15.
That's 0.88 times a game, Mark.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh was 29th in pass attempts. And the Niners were 32nd.
Number one receiver got how many targets? What did Pickens get?
Oh, I'll punch it up, but probably, I would guess, 100 targets. Here, I'll find it right here.
That was also last season when Matt Canada was their offensive coordinator. They've made a change. They brought in the biggest donkey in probably the entire NFL to be their new offensive coordinator. For those not keeping up, their new offensive coordinator is Arthur Smith, the head coach of the Falcons, who everybody across any football fan made fun of for him not being able to get the ball to star wide receiver Drake London, star tight end Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson, not using him well. I do have this.
They had no quarterback. Just real quick, Lucas, Director of Sports. Pickens 106 targets, Brandon 105.
Oh, there you go.
For those needing stats to back up this Arthur Smith thing, Here is his rank in pass rate over expectation. So that just means, you can do the math. How much he passes when it's the script is even. As a head coach or offensive coordinator, 2019 with the Titans, 29th. 2020 with the Titans, 30th. Big up in 2021 with the Falcons, he was 13th. But then 2022, he was 31st. 2023 with the Falcons, 32nd. Last in the league last year.
Okay. Yeah. Listen, this is not my money. This is not my job. This is not my life. So good on you. I always go back to when Kevin Durant joined the Warriors and for 6 months was like the biggest evil person in national media for whatever reason. And my opinion all along was, dude, you get to do what you want in life. If you want to be a Warrior, then you get to be a Warrior, especially when you're a free agent. But Brandon is not a free agent, and I don't understand this situation from the perspective of anybody. I don't get it. I really don't. I don't know what it is now. I don't know anymore what Brandon even wants. The answer all along was, don't mess with the guy's money. All right, here's the money. Nope, I don't want that either. Wait, what? And why the Niners? Why is this happening in August? Why are you giving into his demands? There's got to be a lot going on that we don't know about because none of this makes any sense at all.
So you take your second team all-pro receiver and you just decide in August that you're going to move forward without him.
Right.
Because he's not good anymore. Something's going on behind closed doors that's making them highly motivated to look to these deals. And he says he just wants to get paid. It doesn't mean he wants maximum money, but he wants money close to what he wants. And it seems like he wants to go to Pittsburgh. Maybe it is because he and Mike Tomlin struck up a friendship on Twitter because he thought that, people told him that they looked alike. And Ryan Clark, former Steeler, maybe he just likes Mike Tomlin and wants to go play for a coach that he feels like he can connect with. Maybe. Because it doesn't seem like he and Kyle Shanahan really connect on a great level.
The whole thing is, if you want to trace back to a guy's roots, Brandon Aiyuk he's a Pac-12 guy. He's a West Coast guy. His head coach in college is best friends with John Lynch. He's in lockstep with John and Kyle, always has been. I can't draw any lines to make this make sense for anybody. It makes no sense. I'm very confident, and this is not homerism or anything. I'm very confident that Brandon's numbers will go down if he leaves the Niners. Like, you're leaving the most productive offense in football. It was actually stunning, the numbers he put up with the target share that he had. He was the best in football at that. Like, he did the most with the least, and it wasn't even close. It was crazy what he did. So
he was second in the league in yards per target.
Right. So
Khalil Shakir for Buffalo.
That's
bested him.
Much smaller sample.
Yep, 45 targets instead of 105.
Right. So I look at Brandon and I know how that's translated in his mind. Boy, if you gave me targets like other number one receivers, I'd be Tyreek Hill in this thing. However, I think it's fair for all of us to go, would you? Because
depends on the quarterback and the situation.
Not all targets are the same.
So if you go to New England and you play with Drake May and you get 150 targets, then you probably get the same 75 catches.
512 yards.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be tougher. So maybe he looks at Pittsburgh and thinks, well, they've got a better quarterback situation than New England. It's a head coach that I think I can play for. And, you think that you're going to get more than 105 targets, even if you are sharing targets there like you were here.
Yeah, by the way, I don't even know. Now, this is going to make some people go, make you want to throw something off of a wall. I don't know that Brandon arrives in Pittsburgh as their number one receiver.
Yeah.
I don't know that. George is one hell of a physical presence and has been there in the system for multiple years. You just walk in and take over, maybe. I don't even know who their quarterback is. I don't know if they know who their quarterback is. There's so many question marks. And I have a hard time making sense of this right now from any angle.
I do think that if you go there, you don't have to share targets with as many people. And that if you're looking at just your numbers, Here you've got George and Christian and Debo
Sure.
and you. So 4 different people all getting about the same number of targets. You go to Pittsburgh and it's George. Deontay Johnson had 87 targets.
Well, he's gone.
Jalen Warren had 74 targets
Yeah,
out of the backfield. So you would at least feel like
you
if
have
you
Najee
are
Harris, you have Pat Fryermuth.
Najee had 38 targets. They don't throw it to the back very often.
No, but I'm talking about just ball,
Sure.
just like the ball.
I'm just saying for, targets, because here in San Francisco, you do have to share it with a lot more people. Maybe you figure you go there, and if you're not wide receiver 1, you're at least 1B, and you're going to get more. If it's all about numbers and money and not about being on a winning team and a winning culture, then you'd be motivated to go somewhere else.
I feel you there. I mean, one thing, and this is kind of the lovely Christie's line, she's used this over and over because we sat there and watched all of the receiver doc. Like, you came to the 49ers. Okay, only 5 people got invited to do this show. Netflix comes to the 49ers, and they're like, we think you're worth 2. We'd like 2 of your receivers. And neither of them are Brandon.
Right. Well,
wow. I know, but wow for a second.
Part of it's the personality. Let's be fair.
Part of it.
George was only included in this because he's George Kittle.
Right, but why Debo's not some massive personality that's all over the place talking to everybody.
No,
He's
but
not
Debo's
George.
a good personality.
Yeah.
So you picked one,
Brandon's
so you're going to pick both. I don't think that Brandon Aiyuk has anywhere near the personality.
I don't think
you
he has
see him
the-
with his hood on, and you see he's very soft-spoken.
I don't think he has the name value. But again, if we're all acknowledging that this whole conversation goes into ego and setting and share, how does it resonate with you when documentaries are being filmed about receivers and 2 of them come from your team and you're neither of them? And your team looks at you and goes, no, not 28, not 27.
Yeah. You know what I
Maybe
think?
26.
I think they say they don't want me. That's what I think.
And he does.
That's right.
And that's what he thinks.
Exactly. And so the receiver doc was filmed last year. So that was a signal that was already sent to him because those 2 were mic'd up all year during the year last year. And so he's running around doing big things, 75 catches and a second team All-Pro, and you don't want to mic me up. And then you get out of the Super Bowl and 48 hours later, you're already feeling a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. And so you begin immediately your off-season campaign toward getting that bag. And here we are 6 months removed, almost to the day from the Super Bowl, and still no resolution.
Yeah. I mean,
so I think you're right.
Remember, Brandon Aiyuk was their leading receiver the year before, too. He went for 1,000 yards.
Exactly.
And Debo gets picked for Netflix coming off a worst season of his career. Debo was not good. He went for 630 yards. But, I mean, I think we all know that when the 49er offense comes together, there's no diminishing how good Brandon Aiyuk is and how good he was in the system. But if you really ask what the identity of the offense is, you start going through a lot of the names before you get to Brandon.
Well, identity for sure.
Yeah,
and you mentioned it
absolutely.
before, like with the boom box. It's him and Trent. And I do think that's a big reason why he was picked because, well, for one, he's got the great name and he's got the great story, the cute son. He's the boom box guy, and he's out there doing unique things as a football player. Brandon Aiyuk is an elite wide receiver, but you can go down the list of wide receivers and you can find comps for good route runners, great hands, good finishers, can do, make all the catches and all the rest of it. There aren't too many Debo Samuels out there, and there certainly isn't another George Kittle.
Was it Chad Johnson or Ocho Cinco or whatever he wants to call himself? Was he the one? I heard something on Steiny and Goo earlier today where, and Granny, maybe you can find out. I think that they said it was Chad Johnson who basically came out and said, look, he's a good player, but receivers are replaceable. And I was like, whoa, coming from that guy.
Exactly.
That's interesting. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. If you remove the emotion, the stats, the faces, and the jerseys, and you just ask yourself, should a football team, anyone that is paying a quarterback, forget if it's 60 million or 50 or whatever, but you're paying a quarterback at a high level, should any team go north of 25 million a year for 2 receivers? You can do it. The Eagles are doing it.
Yep.
I don't know but is that working?
The coach is on the hot seat going into the year.
You saw all the stories earlier today. It just comes out now that Sirianni and Jalen Hurts were apparently at each other all year last year. There's always an answer. It's just like the Warriors when they couldn't win a road game after Draymond punched Jordan Poole. And you're like, gosh, why is the roster not working? Something's going on in there. And we joked that it was Big Dom. Well, now you have your answer.
They couldn't win without me. I got ejected and they just started losing. I'm Big Dom.
The quarterback. I love your Big Dom.
Big Dom.
I did. I bring him up because my hope is that you'll bring him back. But Sirianni and Hurts were not on the same page. That'll kill any team. Your coach and your quarterback are pushing in opposite directions. You're done. You're done. And then, they're being praised. Oh, they got out ahead of it. They paid Devontae and AJ. But, well, let's see what this looks like.
Yeah.
I know you got Saquon now. I bet it's going to be amazing. Will it?
Well, I'm just looking at the list of these quarterbacks, and it's interesting the way you lay that out because Mahomes in Kansas City, they don't have two guys making 25. They don't even have one.
They don't have one. Not even close.
Travis Kelce as a tight end probably makes that, but he's a tight end. Cincinnati, well, they're in a spot now because Jamar Chase is holding in, and he wants his bag. I don't think T. Higgins is making 25, but
no, he's on the tag.
Right. So,
yeah, but 1 year.
Right. So they're a team that might be looking at that down the road. Trevor Lawrence is next. That's a no. The Chargers and Justin Herbert, they just got rid of both of their receivers. Baltimore is a no. Buffalo did exactly what Green Bay has done, and they purged themselves of the high-priced guys. Philadelphia's the only one. And Jalen's making 51 average annual, and they got the two guys making more than 25, and we'll see how that works out.
See.
Yeah.
Kelce makes 17, by the way.
Oh, that's all.
I mean, tight end. Yeah.
Okay.
Tight end. He got a.
Now he got that Swifty money, so he doesn't have to worry about it. Yeah, he's going to pull through.
Yeah, I mean.
Tua's making 53 average annual, and you got.
And the Dolphins are paying $2.
Waddle and Tyreek.
We'll see.
Yeah.
You know?
Jared Goff's making 53 average annual, but it's just Amon-Ra.
Just Amon-Ra.
And then you go through, and there really aren't any teams that are paying two guys that much.
And when you have, if you want to call it a run-first offense, or at least an offense that runs through its running back and its left tackle, it probably makes even less sense to do it.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that's at least a thought. I don't know if it's the thought. That's probably a thought from Kyle Shanahan. He's like, look, we got this great roster. If we're going to figure out where we're trimming money and where we're adding money, I don't think a wide receiver room is where he wants to add money.
Exactly. They just, re-signed their fullback. They reworked his deal because they do a lot with the fullback, and they only have two receivers on the field anyway most of the time.